suggestion is that the motion be agreed to and call Claire Curran.
Mr. Speaker. Well, Mr. Speaker, this is an historic day. It's been an historic day on a number of counts. We saw pass through the third reading earlier today a bill which abolishes zero-hour contracts, which is an historic occurrence. With this bill, the Radio New Zealand Amendment Bill, we have the third reading, finally, of a bill that has been sitting on the order paper since 2009. It's a simple bill. It follows a statutory requirement to review the Radio New Zealand Charter every 5 years, and the review of the Charter that we're talking about in this bill tonight began in 2005. So that's 10 years ago. The statutory requirement, Mr. Speaker, is to have that charter reviewed at 5 yearly intervals. So given that this legislation was introduced following a review that started in 2005, we should be on to not the next review, but the one after that right now. So we've actually skipped 2 reviews, and I think that is a fairly extraordinary occurrence, because ultimately not only has the Minister not seen through the fulfilment of a statutory duty, but we've actually got a review that's happened that is 10 years old. And yes, there was a substantial amendment that the Minister put to the House at the committee stage, with no ability for there to be a select committee process and discussion around it. In fact, tonight the Minister has made really the only comments on that substantial amendment that we've heard from the government. So really it's been a bit of a shambles, and it's been an extraordinary passage. It's probably one of the bills that since this government has been in power, that has sat on the order paper for the longest before it's actually been through all of its readings in the House. Labor supports the bill because it is a review of the Radio New Zealand Charter, and that is and it was a review, as I said, that began in 2005 under the previous Labor government. So of course we support it. What we do have concerns about is that what it really shows is a lack of commitment by this government to public broadcasting and to the important processes that we need to keep putting in place, and not only do a review from 2005, but we needed to have done 2 more reviews since then, so that we can be reassured that what we're seeing in this bill is as up to date as possible. So I think that the people listening at home tonight should be aware of that. The Minister has been full of praise for Radio New Zealand, but what the Minister doesn't say is that Radio New Zealand is under more and more pressure to deliver quality content in a funding environment which is going backwards. They have recorded a deficit this year. They have been in a funding freeze since 2009, and which ultimately represents a cut in their funding of around 25%. And they are doing their best and doing very well under the circumstances of providing quality services in such an environment. But people should be very aware that they are operating in a very difficult environment. They're making that transition to becoming a multimedia broadcaster and operating on multimedia platforms, and have made that transition very well with the new Checkpoint program, largely because of the talent that they have and the vision that their Chief Executive, Paul Thompson, has for the organisation. But they're doing that in a very difficult environment, Mr. Speaker, and one that this government has no desire nor intention to improve when it comes to New Zealand's important public broadcasting, only public broadcasting platform, which is doing its best to become a multimedia, which is why why it's so curious that that the board chair refused to go to the government in this budget round and ask for extra funding, and which is curious and sad. And members of the Select Committee were moved to ask whether Radio New Zealand had given up. I don't think Radio New Zealand has given up, but I think it's operating in very, very difficult circumstances. Everybody listening tonight should be aware of that and should be asking questions as to why that is so and what is this government going to do about it. Mr. Speaker, the bill before us tonight, as you know, it follows a review of the Charter, the Radio New Zealand Charter in 2005.
I'm sorry to interrupt the honourable member. The time has come for me to leave the chair. Members, this debate is interrupted and set down for resumption next sitting day, and the House stands adjourned until 2 p.m. on Tuesday the 15th of March 2016. Good evening.